Welcome Virgo. Thank you for joining me for your monthly horoscope for May for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. I also interact with all comments, so please share your thoughts and I will respond. If you'd like to subscribe to my monthly astrology magazine, my regular updates or your free daily horoscope, please click on the link beneath this video. Virgo, we're living in momentous times. I'm sure you would agree that astrology sometimes can be seen as quite a trivial thing. It's never been that for me, and I always measure my words with a great deal of care. But I think it is important at this particular time to be even more sensitive about what we say. So with that structure in mind, I'll start by saying that there is a glorious alliance of 3 planets as this month begins for you in your sector of new experiences. Now this is the 9th house. This is about travel, ironically. And it's also about higher education. It's about philosophy. It's about how we inform ourselves. It's the higher side of our thinking, if you like. The Sun is about our soul development, our soul potential. And Mercury, your ruler, is very much about communication, being of service to others, finding practical solutions, which you have an enormous gift for. And also Uranus is in this location, in your sister Earth sign of Taurus. And that's very much the planet of change, and it can make us very restless. Now these 3 influences together, ordinarily for you, would point towards a time of new opportunities to shake things up a little bit from the norm. And there is going to be a fantastic link this month from the 11th through to the 19th between the Sun and also Pluto. Now Pluto is the planet of change, transformation, and the angle between the 5th house where Pluto is, which is about your self-expression, your talents, your joys, with the Sun in your 9th house, points towards something quite wonderful starting to evolve in your world. But of course, we're in some very, very tricky circumstances with a big headwind. Now, the key to overcoming this headwind is going to be communication. It's not just healthcare, which of course is manifestly important for any person very sadly caught up in COVID-19, but it's how we interact as a group of people on a wider basis. And Venus, the planet of relating, is in an elevated part of your horoscope for the whole of this month. And that can see you taking a leading role. Your diplomacy or wisdom, the way you look at situations and disseminate them into what's really meaningful, can be a great gift that you share with others. But Venus is in contact with Neptune, the planet of dreams, which I think has had a lot to do with this particular crisis, because Neptune's swirly, it's misty. It's also very much linked to infections and things that are hard to see, that are rather intangible. But the link between Venus and Neptune just suggests that you could encounter someone who may be an advice giver, or someone who manifests themselves in a more romantic dimension in your life. But just proceed with a little bit of caution on that particular influence, because there may be someone that you're going to come into contact with who seems glorious but could have a hidden side that's not immediately obvious. But on the 5th, the North Node, which is a nominal point, also known as the point of destiny, inverts back into the sign of Gemini. It goes in the opposite direction to the planets. Now, this transit will last for 18 months, and this is the key to all this communication. So the North Node going through this area, along with Venus, is going to push us all to interact, to exchange information and ideas. Any kind of technology which can help to plot the people who may come into contact with anyone who suffers with the coronavirus, or who may do, that kind of technology can be a great gift from this Gemini energy. But also being more in touch with real news reports, so we get more informed of what's really helpful. And because you've got this position of the Sun, Mercury and Uranus, all initially, the part of your horoscope to do with higher information, you can be a great asset to other people, being a source of guidance, disseminating that information, working out what might be true and what's not, helping to bring down the levels of anxiety. So your natural practicality can be such a gift for us all. But on the 7th of the month, we do have a very passionate full moon in Scorpio, which we have once a year. And this is actually forging a very positive angle to Neptune, which proves that sensitivity to others and instinctive actions are not something we should dismiss. But I do think your desire to widen your thinking may come into conflict with someone who wants to retain the status quo, and it could be someone quite close to you. So just be aware of that. So the way you exchange your ideas does need to be done in a very dry way that other people can readily understand what you're saying. Because if any of your ideas are a bit more ephemeral, coming through Neptune, they might not get it. But also on the 11th, Mercury, your ruler, moves out of the sign of Taurus and into the sign of Gemini, joining up with the North Node and also, obviously, Venus. Now, Mercury in this location is wonderful. You could have an opportunity to retrain, to learn some new skills in a professional environment, or you could apply for a new job, or there could be news of a promotion coming in an existing organisation. Yes, even within this crisis. But the 11th also sees Saturn go into a retrograde. But Saturn for you, in the sign of Aquarius, where it's been since the 22nd of March, just really brings more sharply into focus your appreciation of purity, whether it's around healthcare, whether it's around services. Of course, we've seen the downside because Saturn in Aquarius is the community. So we've seen people hoarding because they're fearful. But you could well be a person involved in a business that's coming up with the schemes to deal with that kind of behaviour so it becomes more structured, fairer for everyone. Or in your own situation, perhaps you've been bringing even greater organisation in. Not every Virgo has meticulously tidied shelves, but I think a lot of you do. But then on the 13th, Venus does go into a retrograde in this very elevated location where your charm, your personality power is going to continue to be very important right through to the 7th of August. But on the same day, Mars moves into your opposite sign. Now, I think this can be really good for you. Mars is fire, of course. It's been in the practical 6th house, which is food and water to you, because that's helped you to work hard, whether it's been on dealing with the crisis or looking after yourself, looking after those closest to you, or maintaining your role in society. But Mars moving into your 7th house, it is moving into the wet, moist Pisces. So that can create a bit of distortion, but I think what it's going to do is help you to firm up your boundaries on the relationships that you're having, professional or personal. And it also gives you a bit of a push, if you're single, to think about relationships. And because you've got this 9th house energy still going on, which is about expanding your horizons, even though physical travel may still be quite restricted, I feel, at this stage, that doesn't mean to say that we can't communicate over Skype, over email or SMS, through Facebook or whatever. And I think Mars moving into this area, if you are footloose and fancy free, can give you the desire, if that's what you want, to be more in contact with others. You can also see you being more competitive if you need to be so in a professional environment. Now that's going to be very important to you in the last 3 days of this month, because on the 14th, Jupiter does go into a retrograde. This is more challenging, I must be honest. Jupiter and Pluto are actually in conjunction all this month, broadly. Jupiter retrograde is rather like a very large Mercury retrograde. Jupiter rules expansion, optimism, the feel-good factor. That grinds right down, it slows down. But I think what this really is about is that the way that we have been leading our lives has been in a very material way. And I think Jupiter retrograde asks us to think about life in a spiritual way. So in terms of the 5th house for you, where Jupiter is, don't necessarily be thinking that you can't manifest things by a glamorous new car or stuff like this. Think about how you can use your enthusiasm, Jupiter, your potential to attract good fortune, Jupiter, but in a more inward way. So that could work around your love life, the 5th house, could work around encouraging your children. It may be you've spent more time with your children through this crisis, which has been actually one of the upsides of the opportunities. So don't see Jupiter retrograde as only a difficult thing, but generally in the sign of Capricorn, it is talking about potentially the economy still being quite on the low side. However, from the 19th to the 30th, Mars, in your opposite sign now, forges a brilliant link with Uranus in your 9th house. You could spark some kind of alliance with someone in the last 10 days of this month. And pardon me, you and they may really hit it off. It's like you've got different skill sets, but you can really egg each other on, and something dramatically can start to move forwards in a way which really excites you. Also, the 21st sees the sun climb right to the top of your scope. This is where you can be loud and proud. It's giving you a huge boost of confidence. It also links immediately with Mercury and Venus, which are in alliance in a conjunction. Venus is going backwards from the 11th, as I said, but I think this conjunction of energy on the 21st is wonderful for you to strut your stuff, to tell people about your talents, to set some new goals and intentions, especially on the back of the new moon in Gemini on the 22nd. Think big, because it's forging a brilliant angle to Saturn. So any ideas that you have for advancement will be anchored in your legendary common sense. You're not going to be putting yourself into a situation you can't deal with. This is helping to shape you in a way which can take you forwards very positively. The 29th also sees your ruler move into the friendly 11th house, the sign of Cancer. Now, Cancer doesn't deal with Mercury's transit wonderfully well because it's watery, and Mercury, as you know, likes clarity, fact. But I do think that this can bring out the more compassionate side of your nature in your links to others. And although Mars and the Sun go into a competitive right angle in the last 3 days of this month, I think why not? If you are giving yourself a little bit more push to the front of the queue, that can be a good thing, but this connection that you're going to achieve with others through Mercury can help you to do it in a way where you're still communicating with the friends around you. So what a month we have, Virgo. It does have challenges. I think the economy generally is going to be going into a headwind for much of this year, because if we take 3 months out of the economy because everyone's self-isolating, as things crank up again, it could take quite some time, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, to really get the momentum back. So we have to be mindful of that. But I think for you personally, as you're picking your way through the opportunities, there is a chance for you to position yourself in a leadership role. Yes, a leadership role where you can take on more responsibility and provide that very sound guidance, that commonsensical approach that is so wonderful about you. But with all that energy in Gemini, it's about communication, and that's the key to your progress, whatever external circumstances we are all dealing with. Thank you so much for joining me for your monthly horoscope forecast. I'd love it if you would subscribe to my monthly magazine and my regular mail-outs, which are high quality astro journalism. You can also get your free daily horoscope within this emailed to you each day. Then again, if you'd like to have a one-to-one with me or order your personal 12-month forecast and character analysis and get 30% off them, please see the links beneath this video. But for now, good luck and goodbye.